Welcome to my channel. Subscribe, listen, and enjoy my stories every day. The humming of the old desktop fills the quiet room, a monotonous sound that's become almost soothing over the years. It's late, past midnight, and the only light is the dim glow of the monitor. I sit hunched over the keyboard, my eyes bleary from hours of work. It's not the first time the computer has acted up, it's been glitching for weeks. Tonight, I finally decide to tackle it head-on. My fingers dance over the keys as I navigate through folders, searching for any sign of corruption or malware. My wife, Emily, is asleep in our bedroom, the gentle rise and fall of her breathing barely audible through the thin walls. I feel a pang of guilt for waking her earlier with my frustrations about the computer, but that's a fleeting thought. The reality of the situation feels urgent, almost like a pressing matter of personal integrity. As I dig deeper into the system files, a folder catches my eye. It's labeled System Logs, Backups, a name that seems innocuous enough. I click on it, expecting to find nothing of interest, perhaps some outdated logs or error reports. Instead, I'm met with a series of thumbnails. They're photos, not system files. My heart skips a beat. I didn't expect to find anything at all, let alone something so personal. I hesitate for a moment, a sinking feeling in my chest. With a deep breath, I click on one of the thumbnails to enlarge it. The image that appears makes me gasp. There's Emily, my wife, smiling seductively at the camera. Beside her, my father's arm is draped around her shoulder. They're in a hotel room, this is evident from the disheveled bed and the dim lighting. The intimacy in their poses is unmistakable. I feel a rush of anger, a mixture of shock and disbelief. My mind races, trying to process the betrayal. Each photo I open reveals more of the same, Emily and my father in various intimate poses. The explicit nature of the images is a brutal slap in the face, each one a cold reminder of the trust that has been shattered. I hear a soft murmur from the bedroom and freeze, my pulse quickening. I close the folder and shut down the computer with a trembling hand. The room is suddenly too small, the walls closing in around me. I take a few deep breaths, trying to calm the storm raging inside me. I pace the room, my mind working furiously. I need to confront Emily, but I'm not sure how to approach it. The images are irrefutable, but how do I even begin to address this with her? And what about my father? The betrayal cuts deeper knowing it involves him. My resolve hardens. This isn't just about confronting them, it's about making sure they understand the full impact of their actions. I've always prided myself on being a patient man, but tonight, that patience feels like a weakness. In the morning, I make up my mind. I'll gather evidence and plan my approach meticulously. I need to ensure that Emily's betrayal is exposed fully, that everyone understands the extent of what's happened. I want them to feel the same pain and humiliation I'm experiencing now. Emily stirs as I open the bedroom door, the soft rustle of the sheets alerting me to her awakening. I look at her, trying to maintain a calm exterior despite the storm inside. "Good morning," she says, her voice groggy but warm. "Morning," I reply, my voice cold. "We need to talk." The words hang in the air, charged with a gravity that neither of us can ignore. The facade of normalcy is slipping away, and the truth, painful and raw, is about to come to light. As Emily looks up at me, her expression changing from sleepy confusion to concern, I brace myself for the confrontation that will shatter our lives. In the days to come, my plan takes shape. It's not just about the divorce, it's about ensuring that everyone involved understands the cost of betrayal. I'm meticulous, gathering evidence, documenting everything. The computer, once a tool for my work, becomes an instrument of retribution. The path ahead is clear. I'll ensure that Emily's life is forever altered by her actions. I'll make sure that everyone knows the truth. The betrayal cuts deep, and the revenge will be even sharper. The next morning dawns gray and overcast, a fitting backdrop for the storm brewing inside me. The air feels heavy, laden with the weight of the confrontation that's about to take place. I've prepared meticulously, gathering every shred of evidence and mentally rehearsing my lines. My hands are steady as I move through the motions, but my heart pounds with a nervous energy that refuses to dissipate. Emily emerges from the bathroom, her face scrubbed clean and her hair in a loose, disheveled bun. She's dressed in casual wear, but there's an air of casual detachment that I find infuriatingly calm. I can't shake the feeling that beneath her composed exterior, she's as anxious as I am. "I made coffee," she says, her voice bright but faltering slightly. "Do you want some?" "No," I reply curtly. "We need to talk." Emily's eyes narrow, her smile fading. She nods slowly, sensing the gravity of my tone. "Okay. Let's talk." We sit at the kitchen table, a small wooden piece that's seen too many dinners and too many arguments. I pull out a folder from my briefcase and place it on the table between us. The photos are neatly organized, each one a painful reminder of the betrayal. Emily's face pales as she sees the folder. "What's that?" she asks, though her voice is almost a whisper. "Open it," I say, my voice steely. "Go ahead. See for yourself." Her hands tremble as she reaches for the folder. I watch her face as she flips through the pages, her eyes widening with each image. The color drains from her face, leaving her pale and shaken. "James, she starts, but her voice breaks. "Don't," I cut her off. "Save your excuses. How long? How long has this been going on?" Emily looks up at me, tears welling in her eyes. "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for any of this to happen." "You didn't mean for it to happen." I echo, my voice rising with anger. "You didn't mean to betray me with my own father." She struggles to find the right words. "It was a mistake. It just happened. I never meant for it to go this far. Never meant for it to go this far." I repeat, incredulous. "How many times did it happen, Emily? How many times did you have to betray me before it was too far?" Her shoulders slump as she sinks back into her chair, her bravado crumbling. I don't know what to say. "I'm so sorry." I take a deep breath, trying to control the whirlwind of emotions threatening to overwhelm me. "Sorry isn't enough," I say coldly. "You've shattered our lives, and now I'm left to pick up the pieces." Emily's sobs are quiet but continuous, her shoulders shaking as she tries to hold herself together. I feel a pang of guilt, but it's quickly overshadowed by the anger and hurt. "We're getting a divorce," I say, my tone final. "I'm not going to let this go. I want to make sure everyone knows the truth." Her eyes widen with fear. "What do you mean by that? What are you planning to do?" "I'm going to make sure this gets out," I say. "People need to know what you did. My father too. He's going to face the consequences of his actions." Emily's face crumples, and she reaches for my hand. "Please, James. Don't do this. I'll do anything, just don't make this public." I pull my hand away, feeling a surge of revulsion. It's too late for that. This is happening. I stand up, gathering the photos and shoving them back into the folder. "I'll have my lawyer draw up the papers," I say. "You'll get your notice soon." Emily is left sitting there, tears streaming down her face. I walk out of the kitchen, the weight of my decision settling heavily on my shoulders. The house feels emptier now, haunted by the echoes of betrayal. I spend the rest of the day preparing for what's to come. I contact my lawyer and arrange for the divorce papers to be filed. I draft a letter to my father, detailing his involvement and demanding an explanation. The process is methodical, driven by a need for justice and retribution. That evening, I receive a call from my father. His voice is strained, a mixture of anger and fear. "James, I don't know what you've heard, but I need to explain." "Explain?" I cut him off. "There's nothing to explain. I have the evidence. I know what happened. There's a long silence on the other end of the line. James, please. We need to talk about this in person. Let's meet. I don't think there's anything left to discuss, I say. But if you want to meet, fine. We'll talk then. The call ends, leaving me with a sense of grim satisfaction. The confrontation with my father will come, and it will be just as devastating as the one with Emily. The wheels of retribution are set in motion, and there's no turning back. As I sit alone in the darkening house, the reality of what's happened begins to sink in. The betrayal is complete, and the retribution is only just beginning. I have a plan, and I intend to see it through to the end, no matter the cost. The days after the confrontation are a blur of legal consultations and mounting tension. The shock of Emily's betrayal lingers like a heavy fog, and the anticipation of confronting my father gnaws at my insides. I've made the decision to go through with the divorce, and now, every interaction feels tainted by the underlying betrayal. The day of the meeting with my father arrives, and I feel a strange mix of dread and determination. I've agreed to meet him at a quiet, upscale cafe, a neutral ground where we can talk without any distractions. I arrive early, my hands clammy as I sit at a table by the window, nervously tapping my foot. A little before noon, my father walks in. His face is lined with worry, and he looks older than I remember. He spots me and approaches, his steps hesitant. He takes a seat across from me, and for a moment, we just stare at each other in silence. James, he starts, his voice faltering. I'm glad you agreed to meet. I know things are complicated. Complicated? I echo, trying to keep my voice steady. You don't get to simplify this. I have evidence of what you and Emily have done. There's nothing complicated about that. He sighs deeply, rubbing his temples. I know. I'm so sorry. I never wanted this. It was a mistake. A mistake. I cut him off, leaning forward. A mistake implies a single error. This was a series of deliberate actions, Dad. And now, my life is shattered because of it. My father's eyes fill with tears, but he tries to compose himself. James, I never intended for any of this. I didn't know how to handle it once it started. I should have been honest with you from the beginning. Honest? I snort, shaking my head. You think honesty could have made up for what you did? What you took from me? He looks pained. What can I do to make it right? I know I've hurt you deeply, and I want to make amends. Please, tell me what I can do. You can start by accepting the consequences of your actions, I say coldly. Emily and I are getting divorced. I'm ensuring the entire story is made public. You'll be exposed for what you've done. James, please, he pleads, his voice trembling. Don't do this. Think of your family. Think of the impact this will have. I've thought about it, I say. That's why I'm doing it. I want everyone to know the truth. The conversation becomes increasingly heated, and I can see the weight of my father's guilt pressing down on him. He finally falls silent, his shoulders slumped in defeat. I'll make sure the story stays under wraps, he says, his voice barely above a whisper. But I can't undo what's been done. I look at him, feeling a pang of sorrow. He's not just my father, he's also a man who's lost his way. But that doesn't change the betrayal I feel. I need to get going, I say, standing up. The papers are being filed, and there's no turning back now. My father's face is a mixture of sadness and resignation as he watches me leave. I walk out of the cafe, feeling a sense of grim satisfaction. The confrontation is over, but the consequences are just beginning to unfold. As I return home, I find a message from my lawyer. The divorce papers have been drafted, and the filing process is underway. I review them meticulously, ensuring everything is in order. The reality of the situation begins to settle in, this is really happening. The finality of it all hits me hard. Later that evening, I receive a call from Emily. Her voice is strained and pleading. "James, please, can we talk? I need to explain things further." "I don't think there's anything more to say," I reply. "I've made my decision. The papers are being filed, and there's no going back." "James, please," she begs. "This isn't just about us. There are other things." "There's nothing more to discuss," I interrupt. "I've already made arrangements. The truth will come out, and you'll have to face the consequences." I hang up, feeling a mix of relief and sadness. The finality of the situation is sinking in, and there's no denying the impact of my decisions. I'm determined to see this through, to ensure that both Emily and my father understand the full scope of their betrayal. As the days pass, the fallout begins to spread. Rumors start to circulate, and the story of Emily's infidelity and my father's involvement becomes the talk of the town. The public reaction is swift and unforgiving. My father's reputation is tarnished, and Emily is left to grapple with the consequences of her actions. The process of retribution is relentless, and I feel a sense of grim satisfaction as I watch the events unfold. The betrayal has been exposed, and the retribution is complete. But the road ahead remains uncertain, and I know that the true impact of these events is yet to be fully realized. The stage is set for the next chapter in this painful saga. The themes of betrayal and retribution will continue to unravel, and the full scope of the fallout will reveal itself in the coming days. For now, I stand at the center of this storm, prepared to face whatever comes next. The weeks following the public exposure of Emily and my father's betrayal are a whirlwind of chaos and upheaval. The once calm rhythms of my life have been shattered, replaced by a relentless series of meetings, legal proceedings, and personal confrontations. The fallout is far-reaching, and the consequences of their actions reverberate through every aspect of my existence. The divorce is finalized, and Emily has been forced to leave the house. My father's reputation is in tatters, and he's become a pariah in our social circle. The town buzzes with gossip, and I've become something of a local legend, a tragic figure who has been wronged and is now seeking vengeance. One evening, as I sit alone in my now quiet home, a sudden knock on the door jolts me from my thoughts. I open it to find Emily standing on the threshold, her face pale and her eyes filled with a mixture of fear and defiance. "James, we need to talk," she says, her voice trembling. "Not interested," I reply coldly, starting to close the door. "Please," she pleads, stepping forward. "I need you to hear me out. There's something you don't know." I hesitate, curiosity piqued despite myself. I open the door wider and motion for her to come in. She enters, her presence a stark reminder of the pain she's caused. "What could you possibly have to say now?" I ask, my voice laced with disdain. "I didn't just come here to beg for forgiveness," she says. "There's something I need to tell you. Something important." I lead her to the living room, where we both sit in tense silence. Emily takes a deep breath before speaking. "I didn't cheat on you with your father because I wanted to," she begins. "It was part of a plan, a setup. My involvement with him was orchestrated. I was blackmailed into it." My mind reels. Blackmailed? By whom? Emily's eyes dart nervously. By someone who wanted to ruin our lives. They had dirt on both of us, on me and your father. They used it to manipulate us into playing out this charade. I'm stunned. Who? Who was behind this? Emily shakes her head, tears streaming down her face. I don't know. They were always careful, never revealing their identity. They threatened me, and I was too afraid to resist. The revelation hits me like a ton of bricks. The betrayal I thought was personal turns out to be part of a larger scheme. My father's involvement wasn't a matter of personal failure, it was a pawn in someone else's game. The realization fuels a new kind of rage inside me, one that's not only directed at Emily and my father but at the shadowy figure who orchestrated this mess. I'm determined to find out who is behind this and to make them pay. The following days are spent digging into the mystery. I use my resources, connections, and even the knowledge I've gleaned from the situation to uncover the identity of the true manipulator. My investigation reveals that the mastermind behind the scheme is someone from my past, an old business rival who has long held a grudge against me. I confront my father and Emily one last time, bringing them together for a meeting. They both look haggard and defeated, their earlier bravado long gone. I found out who was really behind this, I tell them. It wasn't just you and my father, there's someone else who orchestrated everything. And now, they're going to face the consequences. Emily looks at me with a mix of relief and trepidation. Who is it? It's someone you both know, I say. Someone who's been waiting for the perfect moment to strike. But now, the tables have turned. The meeting with my rival is set in a secluded warehouse, a fitting venue for the final act of this twisted drama. I arrive early, my mind focused on the plan I've devised. The warehouse is dimly lit, the air heavy with anticipation. When my rival arrives, he's surprised to see me waiting. His expression shifts from confusion to realization as he understands the gravity of the situation. "James," he says, a hint of fear in his voice. "What is this about?" "You wanted to ruin my life," I say, stepping forward with a menacing look. "And you used others as your pawns. But now, you're going to face the music." The confrontation is intense. My rival, desperate and cornered, tries to negotiate and make excuses, but I'm beyond reason. I've prepared for this moment, and I'm determined to ensure that he pays for his actions. The confrontation ends with a sense of grim satisfaction. My rival is exposed and defeated, his plans unraveling before his eyes. As I leave the warehouse, I feel a sense of closure, knowing that the true architect of this chaos has been brought to justice. Back at home, I look around at the remnants of my old life. The house feels emptier now, a stark reminder of the personal cost of betrayal and retribution. Emily and my father are gone, their lives forever altered by the events that transpired. My rival's downfall has provided a semblance of closure, but the scars remain. As I stand alone in the quiet of my home, I realize that the journey is over. The deception has been revealed, the traitors have been dealt with, and the truth has come to light. The final act of this painful saga is complete, and I'm left to rebuild and move forward from the ashes of my shattered past.